We are now through 5 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so let's rank all 5 of them. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I am ranking all 5 phases of the MCU with the release of Thunderbolts, or dare I say, the new Avengers. We have reached the end of Phase 5, so we're headed into Phase 6 with Fantastic Four First Steps, but let's take a look back at the journey thus far through the MCU and rank all 5 phases from my least favorite to favorite. And I want to make it clear that I'm just ranking these phases based on movies, because we didn't have TV shows until Phase 4, and so at that point it becomes difficult to compare 2 phases with shows to 3 that have no shows. It just feels uneven in a way, and so I'm just looking at the movies here, because this cinematic universe was founded on movies. The movies are really the selling point. Before I get into this, hit that like button, comment your ranking of all 5 MCU phases down below, and your favorite and least favorite outright if you don't want to rank them all. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. It means quite a bit. But I say we just dive in. And last place for me is going to be Phase 4. Phase 4 consists of Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's worth noting the first film came out in 2021, that movie being Black Widow, and the last MCU film before that was Far From Home. So 2020 was like one of the few years in the existence of the MCU where we went without a film. So we were craving the theatrical experience. Black Widow drops and it's pretty solid. I was rewatching some moments from it. I've always enjoyed this movie. I think it's a solid watch that gets too much hate, but it is a prequel film. Obviously, Natasha was dead when the movie came out, so it's a prequel following her. The next film introduces Shang-Chi into the MCU. Breath of fresh air, right? It's this fantasy world of Ta Lo, but you've also got some really cool action sequences. Then you get a movie in Eternals that introduces tons of new characters, almost too many for its own good, but you've got these concepts that are at play that really rewire our perception of the MCU and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like how things function behind the scene, destiny of characters, like what is our fate. A lot of these really grand concepts are introduced. It doesn't work for the better. And then you round out 2021 with Spider-Man No Way Home, which is the epitome of Spider-Man. You've got all 3 live-action Spideys swinging together on the big screen. It was an event film. And so those are 4 movies in the span of a few months, all of them drastically different, not a lot of interconnectivity between them, and so to call them a part of the same phase does feel a little weird. Spider-Man No Way Home to me is still one of the top tier MCU films, period. It is maybe the best Spider-Man movie we've gotten. I've said that many times, and it depends on the day. It is a truly special movie in my mind, but then you've got a Black Widow prequel, a new character being introduced in Shang-Chi, and then Eternals, which has like prequel elements and tries to mess with the timeline of the MCU. So there's a lot of weird sort of flow with this phase, if you can even call it that. And then you get into 2022 and you've got 3 more projects that could not be more different. Love and Thunder was a disaster. It's the worst movie in the MCU in my opinion, just misses the mark entirely. Wakanda Forever is this homage to Chadwick Boseman and the character Black Panther. Very depressing film. And it introduces Namor, and the Multiverse of Madness is another one of those films that tries to rely on, oh, we're bringing this character in, look, we've got the Illuminati, and then we're gonna kill him off in 10 minutes, so that movie's all over the place. Then you look at the whole phase, 21 and 22, those years combined, it's just this weird hodgepodge of movies that, again, have no interconnectivity. One project's not necessarily bleeding into the other, they're not like teeing up the next project in a post-credit scene necessarily, so it feels like there's no flow or connectivity at all, which is to me why Phase 4 is the weakest phase out of all 5 in the MCU. I kind of view it as like the rebound phase. We ended on such a high with Phase 3 having Infinity War Endgame, and then obviously Far From Home kind of caps off that phase, but this is like the bounce back, right? For sports fans out there, this is the rebuild year, the rebuild phase for the MCU, right? I'm a Georgia fan. I have been my whole life. Go Dogs. Well, Mark Richt got fired in 2015. 2016, Kirby Smart comes in. It's a rebuild year. Then you bounce back after that, and they go to the national championship in 2017 after the 2016 season where they went 8-5. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of, I feel, is representative of Phase 4. It's a rebuild year, a rebound. You're bouncing back, but you're not going to be at your best. It takes time and patience to try and get back to the level of those first 3 phases. It's going to be a slow build, and so that's why, to me, Phase 4 is the weakest. It also introduced the TV shows, so there was more of a reliance on Disney+. And it is when the MCU started to feel like homework to a lot of people. So to me, Phase 4 is the weakest, especially if we're looking at just the movies. Eternals consensus is like a bottom tier MCU movie. Love and Thunder, the worst to many. The only real home run hitter across the board is No Way Home. But even then, Shang-Chi, a movie I like quite a bit, not a lot of people are as high on that. I don't feel as time has passed. So to me, Phase 4 is the weakest MCU phase. Above that, at number 4, I've got Phase 5, which is the phase that just came to an end. We started with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, then went to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Marvels, Deadpool and Wolverine, Captain America Brave New World, and ended with Thunderbolts. Talk about ending on a high note, at least in my opinion, with Thunderbolts. This is a movie that has continued to grow on me. I put out a review, gave it about a 7 out of 10 in that review, and apparently it was interpreted as I hate the movie. I don't understand the internet, and I never will. I was pretty positive on it for the most part. I just had some cons initially. Having seen the movie twice now and discussed it in depth with folks, my thoughts have changed for the better. It's at about an 8 out of 10 for me now. I still don't think this is like a groundbreaking Marvel movie or the best thing ever, but I like it quite a bit, and I feel like there's no gray area in movie discourse anymore. Topic for another time, but you either have to love or hate something, I feel. If you're in the middle or, positive with some issues, people are just, oh, you hate it, oh, you love it. Anyway, Thunderbolts ends the phase on a high note. Kind of sets us up for Avengers Doomsday in a sense. Could we be rushing to it or racing towards Doomsday? Potentially, and I still feel that way, but that's okay because I think they're going to make it work, hopefully, in the long run. I'm trying to be optimistic here. So it started out pretty rough with Quantumania. This is a movie that I was all right on when it first came out. I was like, this is fine, it's nothing crazy cool, but it had some moments to shine. In retrospect, it's become one of the least relevant MCU films as the MCU's completely switched directions on where they're headed. This movie was focused on setting up Kang as like the Thanos level big baddie of the MCU, and that's just going nowhere. So yeah, Quantumania loses relevance with every passing day. Then you got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, a movie that could not have ended the Guardians trilogy better, perfectly sends them off into the sunset, but also does leave the door open if we want to see another team of Guardians in the MCU. There is a new team in the post-credit scene. Beautiful ending, like truly a movie that moved me to tears, but it also made me laugh. It made me, pump my fist in the air with excitement and joy as I watch a one-take fight scene with No Sleep Till Brooklyn blasting. So this is like James Gunn riding off into the sunset in the MCU. What a banger. I think it's the best of this phase. Then you got The Marvels, a movie that's kind of a mess. It's all over the place. Doesn't really feel like it has a reason for existing by the end. It's just a real messy watch despite some of the fun elements present. Then you got Deadpool and Wolverine, a movie that I was over the moon about. I mean, I had an absolute blast with it. Kind of a love letter to the Fox X-Men universe, but has a lot more heart than people will admit. And it's got a story of Deadpool wanting to find meaning, wanting to be a hero and have a value, and then you have a Wolverine who's down in the dumps because he's a failure in his world. People hate him, but he's trying to redeem himself as well. Then we end with Brave New World and Thunderbolts, two movies that are clearly going to be relevant in Avengers Doomsday, as you've got Sam Wilson looking to lead the Avengers, and then Thunderbolts, or the new Avengers, forming by the end of Thunderbolts. So you're going to have some butting heads, some conflict, and that's going to take place off screen. That's my one piece of beef, is like, we have Fantastic Four and then Doomsday, so there's going to be some off-screen conflict between characters that I wish we could have explored in some movies before Doomsday, but we'll see how that all plays out. Still, regardless of your thoughts on Brave New World, I enjoyed it more than most. It's still a flawed film, admittedly. I don't love it. I didn't think it was an abomination like a lot of others did. I believe that it set us in a direction, right, in the MCU, where Sam Wilson is going to be leading the Avengers, and there was a vague post-credit scene that kind of let us know there's a threat coming. Thunderbolts loved the team up, and, there's this fresh new dynamic in the MCU. But that also kind of set us in a direction where the events of Brave New World and the events of Thunderbolts are kind of on a collision course in Doomsday. So by the end of this phase, there was some connectivity, some continuity. Deadpool and Wolverine looks like it's going to really play a role in maybe Avengers Secret Wars, handling these ideas of the Void and teasing things with Deadpool and Thor. So the last three projects in this phase have a sense of connectivity, in my opinion. You've got two that deal with sort of the street-level Avengers threats, and then one dealing with the multiverse. Everything before that, kind of its own thing. But to me, this phase found some connectivity, whereas Phase 4 never really found that. This phase found its footing in the back half, with the movie specifically, and it's like, okay, I kind of see what we're building to now. And I felt with Phase 4, it was all over the place. This phase definitely has its highs and lows, all right? But I think that there are higher highs. Deadpool and Wolverine, Guardians 3, Thunderbolts. There's a little more consistency theatrically, a little more, and the connectivity of it all makes it a stronger phase than Phase 4. Next, we got Phase 1, the one that started it all. This is the first time that a superhero franchise really committed to this cinematic universe, and in many ways, Marvel created this template that other studios have tried and failed to replicate. Phase 1 is classic MCU. You got movies like Iron Man, The Avengers, Captain America, the first Avenger, that people love to this day and are like, yeah, those are the classic MCU flicks. Every single project bled into the next one with, connected post-credit scenes, while also still feeling like their own distinct projects. But what was really special is that it ended with an Avengers team-up movie, but there was a natural build-up to that. Iron Man had 2 movies, Thor had a movie, Captain America had a movie, Hulk had a movie, Black Widow was in an Iron Man movie, and Hawkeye was in a Thor movie. So every single member of the Avengers team was in a movie before they teamed up as the Avengers. So it felt like a natural progression. You had, Iron Man and Captain America, like I said, have their own big movies, but Thor's in there as well. So the big 3 had their own solo films. Hulk even had a movie. Granted, it was Edward Norton, not Ruffalo, but they all build up to an Avengers team. It was this perfect culmination. That movie ends with the Battle of New York. And at the time, we were all on top of the world. That was the sickest thing ever. A superhero team-up film, we'd seen nothing like that on the big screen. So it was truly special. And I am nostalgic about Phase 1. It was, a time to be alive, a special time. But what was impressive about Marvel is that even though they did this so well with Phase 1, there were still some movies. Incredible Hulk's weak. Thor's fine. Iron Man 2, a lot of people hate. So there weren't consensus loved movies across the board in this phase, but they kept going. They were consistent. Consistency compounds. And look where we got. The Avengers, and then we roll into Phase 2, which is my runner-up. Phase 2, I think, is where Marvel really found their footing. We got sequels to some of those first films in Phase 1. We got an Iron Man 3, we got Captain America the Winter Soldier, we got Thor 2. So we got sequels to already known characters' films, and those movies did well because, hey, we're coming off the heels of Avengers, where they're kind of all getting their own sequel film anyway in that. So this is the 3rd or 4th time we're seeing some of these characters in the MCU. Hell yeah, let's go buy a ticket. I'm bought into the world at this point, right? So they're furthering characters that we already knew and actually introducing more side characters to those films. You get the Winter Soldier, Captain America. People think that's the best comic film of all time. I dig it. I'm not that high on it, but I know a lot of people are, and that's awesome. Then Marvel said, you know what? We've got an established team of Avengers. We've got sequels for them. Let's take some risks. And you know what they gave us? Guardians of the Galaxy, beloved film to this day. And they gave us Ant-Man, very risky film that made money. We got 2 more Ant-Man movies, and Scott Lang is one of the most charming, lovable characters in the MCU. So they took risks, but they also went with what worked and continued to further establish characters and better them. All of this combined to a natural progression building up to Avengers Age of Ultron. So we got a second Avengers film after having seen multiple films from our main Avengers. It all flowed together well with the post-credit scenes. All the while, they're building up Thanos, the big baddie who would be the big villain in Phase 3. So Thanos is introduced at the end of Phase 1 in a post-credit scene. He's kind of lurking around in Phase 2 as well. So the threats of this universe, they're all starting to come together. There's a sense of connectivity, and we're building to something with the Infinity Stones all kind of, being present throughout these different films. So all this culminates really well to bleed into Phase 3, which is the best phase of the MCU. Now, it feels a little unfair. We're looking at just movies here, but Phase 3, nearly double the size of all the other phases if we're looking at just movies. It's stacked, and it's got some all-timers. I mean, the phase opens with Captain America Civil War. It's hard to top that. That's a top 5 MCU movie right there, It's basically Avengers 2.5. You got Captain America having his story, Iron Man playing a prominent role, but it introduces Black Panther to the MCU. He would go on to have his own movie in this phase. It introduces Spider-Man to the MCU. He would go on to have his own movie in this phase. Also, we get a Doctor Strange movie here. We got Captain Marvel here. We get a second Ant-Man movie. Did I mention Guardians 2? Thor Ragnarok? This phase was loaded. On top of all this, we got Infinity War and Endgame, the perfect culmination of all these 3 phases. You couldn't do it better. This is the end of the MCU to many, this phase, because it is so well handled. There's a natural, progression of character arcs. Payoff is there. It all feels so rewarding as a viewer to have gone on this journey for nearly 11 years and see it all pay off in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. There's nothing quite like it. I think Marvel is still chasing that high. We as fans are probably too spoiled and ruined, honestly, because of Infinity War and Endgame, because we expect that every time, and I don't know if you can replicate that. It was so special. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing we witnessed with Infinity War and Endgame, how special it was to see the perfect payoff to years of movie making in this interconnected universe. I mean, you just can't do it like that all that much. It's a special, special thing. And the phase ends with Spider-Man Far From Home. So they really rocked it out with Phase 3. It is incredible what they did. And to me, it is the strongest phase with the most consistently great to really good projects. That was the golden age of the MCU. Phase 2 into Phase 3, you can't beat it. We are in that rebuild, like I said, right now, but as we approach Phase 6, there's optimism. Fantastic Four, Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars, there's lots of potential there. We're getting a new Spider-Man movie, so there's lots to be excited about. We'll see if they can return to the glory days, but also, maybe give us something different that still feels, you know, hype and exciting. We don't have to replicate Infinity War Endgame. They can give us something special in its own right. I think that should be the plan. You don't want to replicate the exact emotions and, you know, plots of those movies. You want to go and give us something fresh and new that can still stir up that emotional response in the audience. So I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. I do think that we're rushing a little bit to get to Doomsday, but we just got to see what they have cooked up for us. But all that to say, Phase 3 is the king of the MCU phases. But let me know your ranking of the 5 phases in the comments down below, and hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell, and be on the lookout for more videos coming very soon. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.